As we close out our review of differentiated instruction strategies, you'll want to keep some key grading considerations in mind. Feedback is an essential part of the process. We all know how good it feels to get feedback that confirms what we're doing is right, or even provides us with pathways to redirect our journey towards greater success. Feedback is motivating, or it should be, and it should be empowering. It should not reflect judgment or harsh criticism, as it's one of our super tools as teachers in bringing all of our students to the finish line. So formative feedback, feedback along the journey, low stakes feedback, low stakes assessments, formative strategies for providing feedback. Encourage feedback loops. This was one of my secret sauces to success as a virtual teacher. Is when first when I was online and I could see my students were online. I very often would initiate a quick hello. So I would, hi, how you doing today? And I'd look and see what they were working on, and I'd give some feedback and engage them in a conversation. Very often they would chat with me for a minute, and that always improved our relationship, and it always gave me a stronger sense of understanding of where they were at. The second thing is when they submit assignments, encourage them to add a private comment and add private comments back to see if you can continue the feedback loop. Very often that will be an integral player in getting the next assignment done or getting maybe the assignment resubmitted for more credit. If you're using Google Docs, commenting is an excellent way to keep the fire burning, to make suggestions for corrections, to add an emoji. So just think about commenting in Docs, a link to something that could be a great resource to get them to the next level. Chats, as I said before, when you see that students are online or you're involved in chats, initiate a conversation and try to keep the feedback going. Screencasting feedback is a great formative strategy if they submit work, whether it be a website, an image file, a written document. If you can screencast yourself making corrections and suggestions and sending them the simple screencast, they can pause the video and make those fixes, and they hear your tone, and you can even turn on your webcam. So there's lots of things you could do with screencasting formative feedback. Don't forget that emails and texts are allowable too. Self-correcting Google Forms with open-ended responses for them to add like an annotation or reflection. Those are other great tools. And then Flipgrid as well. You could have them add a video, and then you could allow for commenting and feedback there. So lots of things you can do with formative assessment. Now, the KISS principle, I think, should apply to rubrics. The KISS principle states that most systems work best if they are kept simple rather than being made complicated. This was something that was implemented by the Navy in the 1960s. And so, therefore, simplicity should be a key goal in the design, and unnecessary complexity should be avoided. Now, I really wish that the Navy would have influenced education early on, because I was in education during the time that I call them the convoluted, complicated rubrics came into play, and oh my gosh, they're just so wordy and they're so complex that students don't read them. And so they don't end up being a tool that helps guide people to the finish line. They end up just being a grading tool for the teacher. And so I recommend, this is my belief, that rubrics should be brief, they should be interesting, they should have visuals, there should be checklists, and you could always add Easter eggs. Maybe on every rubric you have one little tiny typo or error that they're going to be looking for, and you're going to give them that extra point if they find it, or you have a contest. So you can make rubrics fun. There's a link here to Kathy Schrock's comprehensive list. Those of you who are newer in education may not know who Kathy Schrock is, but she has a guide to everything. So I would take a look at this. She's got a variety of rubric exemplars for a variety of lesson type projects and products. Not all of them I would think were wonderful, obviously, because they're going to be a little more convoluted than I want them to be. I don't think that an older student has to have a complex rubric. I think it's okay to keep it simple, stupid. That's what that KISS stands for. Okay, grading considerations. Again, some of these things represent my opinion on a research topic where there might be alternating opinions. So bear with me as I explain. No zeros. Now, I'm not a believer that you should never do anything and get a 50% for it. That's not what I'm saying. But the zero policy of if it's late, it's a zero. If it's late, it's a zero. You can't make it up. I just disagree with that policy. If you never turn anything in ever, then I say a zero probably makes sense. But a lot of teachers have policies that, oh, it didn't meet the deadline, so it's a zero. And I think that's a mistake. Encourage redos as many times as they're willing, as long as it's within your school policy. Redo it, redo it, redo it, retake it, retake it, retake it. I want you to get to the finish line. And I also want you to get the best possible result. So if you're willing to do the studying, if you're willing to try again, I'm willing to take a look at that. The 100% is the target. My goal is you're going to meet competency. I am here to help you get there. And by following the above 3 steps, that will encourage your students to want to get there with you. Grades don't impact learning, so you really have to get to the finish line before you start talking about grades. And the way to do that is to employ great formative feedback strategies and encourage them and give them opportunities to do better. All right. Assessment strategies. If several students have IEPs, right? And students in particular will have a modification on their IEP that they need a checklist. They need graphic organizers. They have executive function deficits. And you have to do certain things to help them get to the finish line. Well, just add those things to your resource hubs so that you have them for everyone. And then you can modify on the fly for somebody that might need it a little customized. I love the idea that if a student needs a test read to them, if you're going to make a test, then here's a quick video from one of my colleagues, who's a Google trainer, and she takes the snippet from this worksheet, doesn't matter where you get it, and puts them on a slide and then records, copy and paste them onto a slide, and then records herself reading the question to the student. So then the student can hit play, have the question read to them, pause it, complete it. Now, you don't have to just provide that to students with IEPs. You could make that standard. I'm not saying you will, but you could. If you're going to do it for one, why not make it available for all, is my point. They may not all take advantage of it, but it's there, it's done, and you have another mode of engaging with your material. Supplement with word lists, key concepts. Think about all the things you can do to support the assessment process that will support them in their recollection or their ability to demonstrate understanding on an assessment. But if you can provide tools or supports that are okay to be there, provide them to everyone. And then you have that already built in accommodation for somebody who has that in their IEP. Provide space for feedback. Feedback in the video we watched at the beginning of this workshop talked about giving them a blank piece of paper to write their thoughts, annotate their responses, ask questions, clarify things. That's a good way for you to get a window into their responses if you needed a little more information. So I love that idea as well. I'm a big fan of chunking. So if you have a long assessment, break it into stages so that doesn't have to be completed all in one sitting. And then I love this. I know you probably have seen this before, but this is how I think about differentiating instruction, universal design for learning, and personalized learning. Is this cartoon of like, okay, everyone has to climb the tree. Okay, we have a problem here. So just think about a fish can't climb the tree the way a monkey can. All right. So what kind of accommodations do you have to make for for your students in order to be able to get to the finish line? All right, and in the next area or the next part of this whole journey is tackling the case studies.